Ellen Page, now goes by Elliot Page, this actress, says, the backlash right now is so intense, but the rhetoric coming from anti-trans activists and anti-LGBTQ activists, namely people who have two eyes and recognize that men are not women, it's devastating. These bills are going to be responsible for the death of children. It's that simple. Okay. I want to take this argument on head on because I think very often people will write in from the left and they'll say, you just don't understand this issue, Michael. You're straw-manning this issue. Sure, men and women are different, but some people have this awful affliction, and if you don't indulge their fantasies, then you're killing them because they're going to be depressed and suicidal. What about anorexics? What about people who are dangerously thin but believe that they are fat? That's their truth. That's their self-perception. That's their identity. They're fat people trapped inside of thin people's bodies, right? And if we don't indulge their delusion, they're going to be very sad and depressed and upset. You're literally killing them if you don't allow them to destroy their bodies. What's the difference? They're both body dysmorphic disorders. This is actually what Paul McHugh, the doctor who helped to pioneer the transgender surgery at Johns Hopkins University, which was the institution that pioneered the gender ideology, this is what he concluded in the 70s. He said, the surgery doesn't really do anything to help people. It doesn't necessarily hurt, but it doesn't, as a psychological matter, it obviously hurts their physicality, but it doesn't help them, so he stopped doing it. You know who else was at Johns Hopkins University? Dr. John Money, a sick pervert who was totally bought in on gender identity theory and destroyed a young boy's life because he, as a little baby, mutilated the boy's genitals to make him look more like a girl and conducted heinous experiments on him. And both he and his brother developed horrible disorders and ultimately both killed themselves on the altar, sacrificed on the altar of this insane theory. I discuss this at great length, actually, in my upcoming book. What's it called? Speechless. Controlling Words, Controlling Minds, available now for pre-order. Horrible, horrible things perpetrated in this name on a false sense of compassion. There is nothing compassionate about indulging the anorexic's delusions, and no amount of emotional manipulation will convince me that it is. There's another argument on the gender theory, which is this. Yes, men and women are different, and yeah, that's not going to change reality, but these men who think they're women, they're just caught in this condition and there's no way out of it. And so it's better for them, it's much better for them if they can mutilate their bodies to look more like the other sex before puberty sets in. That's the argument. That the actual strong argument for castrating kids, relatively strong argument for castrating kids, is that if you allow puberty to set in, it's going to be very difficult to mutilate their bodies to look more like the other sex. So you actually have to do it before they're grown up, before they have developed their faculties of reason totally. Otherwise, they're going to miss the chance, and you're going to be responsible. You bigoted, closed-minded conservatives, you're going to be responsible for killing people later on because you wouldn't mutilate them when they were kids. I see the quasi-logic of that argument. Parents make decisions for kids, right? And they make some decisions for kids because the kids are not old enough to make those decisions themselves. And so the parents need to decide to castrate the kids. But we're not just talking about whether the kid is going to eat broccoli or Cheetos for dinner. We're not just talking about, is the kid going to learn violin or guitar? We're not just talking about, is he going to play football or baseball? We are talking about sexual decisions for children. And we are talking about permanent sexual decisions for children. And it raises this question. Someone wrote in to me. Caitlin Burns, who's written for Vox and MSNBC, says, by 18, the permanent effects of natal puberty have set in, so the state has effectively made decisions about their body without giving adolescents any choice at all. Any choice at all. So the children need to have choice about sexual decisions and permanent sexual decisions of that. But they're children. They don't have free choice. If this woman's argument, or man, I don't know, I think there might be a transgender issue in this case. I don't know much about this person. But if this argument is correct, why do we have age of consent laws? Why? What's the point of an age of consent law? The argument for an age of consent law is that kids are too young to make any sexual decisions, much less permanent ones. If we are now saying that children have the right to mutilate their genitals, castrate themselves, surely you would have to abolish age of consent laws. So I pointed this out. This is a very basic argument. And of course, the disingenuous left, what do? Whenever you make a point like this, they say, well, stop sexualizing children. You're trying to get rid of age of consent laws. No, they don't really think that. They're just trying to get a cheap shot in. No, quite the opposite. I'm trying to make it illegal to have these surgeries because this is extraordinarily disordered and it's child abuse. And I don't think that children have free agency. And I don't think that we should sexualize children in the way that the left has done in a systematic way for decades, beginning with the bizarre fantasies of Wilhelm Reich, moving on to the sick child sexual experiments of Dr. John Money, who was that doctor at Johns Hopkins who would have these two brothers simulate sex, strip, take photos of it, all in the name of some sort of perverted science. The sexualization of children that we saw in the early essays of Bernie Sanders in alternative newspapers in Vermont, who would talk about how we need children to become accustomed to their sexuality and experiment with one another. Seriously, it's in there. I mention it in my upcoming book, Speechless, Controlling Words, Controlling Minds, available now for pre-order. These are two totally different visions. And there's no compromise between those things, okay? And I think we're beginning to see, as the leftist narrative gets so insane that you've got left-wingers arguing for the total sexualization of children to make permanent sexual decisions. And the vast majority of people who look at that and say, man, whatever that is, I'm out. Whatever that is, I don't want it. You're seeing that break down now. How did we get this far? How on earth did the country get to the point that we are seriously having this debate? Hey, all right, am I still on YouTube for now, or are they going to take more of my videos down? I don't know what it is. Even if we get the videos up, very often you may not get a notification. So make sure you ring the bell. Ring my bell, LL. Ring my bell, subscribe, like. Make sure that you put yourself in the most likely position to get notifications for our next videos.